Ladies and gentlemen, brace yourselves. It's about to get real. Okay, we are in Chapter 8, Section 3, and we're going to be factoring quadratic equations. You remember how we did the box method, and we did x plus 3 times x plus 2, and we got this beautiful box here? Well, we're going to be doing the reverse box. Okay, so we're going to go to the box and then find the binomial. Alright, so here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Whew, we're going to work backwards. Alright, so remember, once we multiplied these, we did the box, we found these terms, combined them, and got a beautiful trinomial. Well, we're going to go from this trinomial back to this expression right here. So, let's play a game. I've got to give credit to Miss Jackson for thinking of it this way. I like this. So, here we go. Can you think of two numbers that multiply to be 16 and add to be 10? Multiply to be 16 and add to be 10. That's right. 2 and 8. You can add them to get 10 and multiply to get 16. What about 36 and 13? That's right, 4 and 9. Ladies and gentlemen, can you think of two numbers that multiply to get you 56 and add to negative 15? Ooh, this one's tricky. Can you think of two numbers? Negative 7 and negative 8. Okay, if they're both negative, they multiply to a positive number, right? What about they multiply to positive 6 and add to negative 7? That's right, they both have to be negative. And negative 1 and negative 6. Here we go. What if this one's negative and it has to add to a negative number? In that case, one of them would be negative. Negative 7 and 5. All right. Pause it and try to figure this one out. Multiply to negative 28 and adds to 3. Negative 4 and 7. All right, so that's the skill we're going to use in this lesson. Okay, brace yourself, take good notes, because this is where it gets real. All right, we're going to factor this. And what we do here is we're going to look at the first and last term. Okay, x squared, the first term, goes in the top. Remember, when we wrote our term, we always had the first part of the box that was the first term by itself. The last one goes in the last box. And then remember, we combined these two to get the middle term. Okay, so now in order to figure out what these two should be, we need to multiply the coefficient of the first and last. So 1 times 14, that would give us 14. And then we need to figure out what numbers multiply to give us 14. Okay, so 1 and 14, 2 and 7. Anything else? Nope. So it's 2 and 7, or 1 and 14. Well, which one of these add to give us 9? 2 and 7 add to give us 9. So we're going to take 2 and put 2x right here and 7x in, and it doesn't matter which one goes where. And then we're going to look at these terms and see between x squared and 2x, what do they have in common? Well, x squared and 2x both have an x. What about 7x and 14? What do they have in common? They both have a 7 in common, all right? Now we'll go column-wise. X squared and 7x, what do they have in common? An x. 2x and 14, what do they have in common? 2. That's right, so there we go. We've done our reverse box. You have x plus 2 and x plus 7. So there we have factored it. That's the reverse box. We'll do a few more examples here. Pause anytime you need to review. Okay? We're going to factor this. So, box, first term in first box, last term in last box. And then a 1 in front of this if there's no coefficient. 1 times 20 gives me 20. What are the factors of 20? 1 and 20, 2 and 10, 4 and 5. Which one of these add to give us 9? 4 and 5. So those are going to be my two terms. Now, factor them out. First row, we just have x. Second row, we've got a 5. First column, we have an x. Second column, we've got a 4. There we go. X plus 4, x plus 5. All right. Now we have a negative here. Gets a little bit trickier. All right. We got the 12 right here, and this is still a 1. Okay, so put a first term here, last term there. 1 gives us 12. All right. Now, here are all the factors for 12. Which one of these combine to give me negative 8? Okay, they've got to add to give me negative 8. And that would be 6 and 2 if they are both negative, because two negatives multiply to positive. 6 plus 2 give me 8. Now, notice these are negative. Okay, if your bottom left or top right are negative, that's going to draw out a negative number right here. Okay, so they both have a 6 in common, and since that box, one of the diagonals, was negative, that number is going to be negative. Same thing here. If this number is negative, this is going to be negative. All right, so then we get x minus 2 and x minus 6. All right. Notice this time our last term is negative, so after we filled this in, we get negative 15. The factors for negative 15, the factors for 15 are 1 and 15, 3 and 5. And so one of these has to be negative in order to get negative 15. Well, if we look at 3 and 5, if one of those is negative, I can get 2. 5 is more, so 3 has to be negative. And then the signs, this one's going to be positive up here, this one's going to be negative. So negative 3, and then these have an x in common, and 5. So it's going to be x minus 3 times x plus 5. All right, now both of these are negative. All right, same procedure. Fill in your box, first term, last term, and now we're looking for the diagonals. So we're going to factor this and see what multiplies to give me negative 18. And then in order to get negative 7, we know 9 and 2 combine to get me 7. And so negative 9 plus positive 2 gives me 7. All right, here factor out the x, factor out a positive 2 because this is positive, factor out the x here, and then negative 9 right there. All right, x plus 2 times x minus 9. Okay, we want to solve this equation. Looks a little bit similar, but notice there's an equals here. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to rewrite this. We're going to subtract 27 from each side to equal 0. Now we did something like this in the previous lesson. We need to factor this out so we have a multiplication and we can use a zero product property. Okay, so we're going to factor x squared plus 6x minus 27. We're going to use our box method and look for the diagonals. Negative 27. 27 has the factors of 1 and 27 and 3 and 9. Well, 3 and 9 are going to combine to 6. And how? Well, if 3 is negative, 9 minus 3. Okay, so 3 is negative. Here we have the factored form. Okay, so these together equal 0. Remember, one of these has to equal 0 for it to be 0. So either x minus 3 equals 0 or x minus 9 equals 0. Solve those, and we get x is 3 or x is negative 9. Those are my two solutions. Okay, so when we're solving a quadratic, you can have two solutions. All right. Here we go. A little bit tricky one right here, word problem. We're designing a poster, and they give us instructions. The top of the poster is 4 inches long, and the rest of the poster is 2 inches longer than the width. Okay, so we've got 4, and then this is 2 inches longer than the width. So we have the width right here, and then this is 2 inches longer. Okay, and the poster requires a total of this amount of poster board. That means length times width gives me 616. All right, so that's the W times, and this entire length is W plus 6, because the 2 and the 4 add to 6. Okay, gives me 616. Multiply this distributive property right here. We get w squared plus 6w is 616. Still can't solve this, so we're going to bring the 616 over to get it to equal 0. Now we have a quadratic that we can factor. Okay, bring in our box, first and last term, and find the diagonals. What multiplies to 1 times negative 616? What multiplies to negative 616? Well, a lot of things do, but notice they should only be a few apart, so they can add or subtract to 6. Okay, and that's going to be right here, the 22 and the 28. Okay, those will combine to 6, so there is my factorization right here, and my binomials come out to w minus 22 times w plus 28. Okay, that equals 0, and now we need to find each case. Either the first set of parentheses equals 0 or the second set. Add 22 and we get w is 22. You can have a width of 22, or we can have a width of negative 28. Now, does a width of negative 28 make sense? Can a width be negative 28? No. Oops. There we go. In this case, negative 28 makes no sense because there is no such thing as a negative width. So it has to be 22. Okay? So make sure your answer makes sense in the context. And there's our announcement for the day. Like and subscribe.